Welcome to Sguardi Altrove International Women Film Festival. We are here with a wonderful international panel that we're very proud of hosting. The panel theme is it's women in cinema at the post Me Too era. So we will be talking with wonderful speakers around the world about what has changed, what needs to change in Hollywood and across the world in movies after and during the Me Too movement. So let me introduce you our panelists tonight, and hello to the viewers that are watching us on YouTube, on my movies, on Facebook, and thanks for your patience. So first I'd like to introduce you to Michaela Scolari. She's a producer, screenwriter, and director, and she was immensely helpful in getting together the wonderful people that we will be watching and talking to tonight. Melora, thanks, Michaela. I can't be more grateful to you, and we'll get back to you soon. Melora Walters is an award-winning poet, filmmaker, and actress and director. She's with here tonight. And wonderful, and I will come to you soon. And let me introduce you to. Okay, here you see all your beautiful faces. I'm excited. We've had a couple of technology problems before setting up the meeting, but here we are. So wonderful faces from all around the world. So let me proceed with Her Royal Highness Princess Angelique Monet. She's a multi-award winning multidisciplinary artist, and she's a pioneer in arts and entertainment, and she's also known for her humanitarian work with the UN. So thanks for being with us tonight. Dominique Shelton is also with us. She's an attorney and author. She's one of the top experts in the US in the data protection issue. It's a pleasure. Actor, film, TV, and theater actress Lucy Russell is joining us from the UK. And yes, I see your face. And multiple Oscar-winning producer Adam Lipsik is also with us. He's also founder of Media U, amongst many other things. Looking forward to talking to you.
Good to be here.
Jaluka Chakra from the Middle East and North Africa is an entertainment pioneer and entertaining pioneer and producer. And thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Diego Martinez Lulanowski from Mexico, director, writer, and producer. Also with us tonight, we're having really people from all over the world. It's exciting, and thanks for connecting despite all the time differences. This is amazing. And Evan Williams and from America, from Canada. Are you in the US or in Canada now? I'm confused.
I'm in the US.
Okay. Actor and musician, and Jerry Ng also joining us from the US, actor, film, and TV producer. So I feel we may be also be joined by a couple of other big names during the night, but I like to start right away to we want to talk about what has changed and what is changing and needs to be changed in Hollywood and in general in the movie industry. So Melora Walters, I'd like to come straight to you. You've worked with just recently with Mira Sorvino in your beautiful Drowning, which was presented last year at the Rome Film Festival. And my question is, how much do you think that things are changing? How much do you think that women are now finally supporting women and working together towards a different kind of movie making?
Okay, so I can talk to you from very personal point of view, practical, real.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, Mira has always been supportive of me as a filmmaker. In fact, she and her husband were the people who said, I guess about 10 years ago, you love Fellini, you love Bergman, you love John Cassavetes, Antonioni, you can do it. Like, start writing, we can make films. And in everything that I've made, everything I've written, she has been part of it, and it's always been collaborative. It's not this is what I wrote. Oh, I love it. It's very collaborative. Questions, answers. How do we make it better? But with Drowning, which just was released on the 20th, it's a very strange situation. I find myself after the Me Too questioning everything. So, did this happen because I'm a woman? Did this not happen because I'm a woman?
Yes.
I have 3 scripts I'm trying to get made. I have Drowning out now. I have a film called Water Lily Jaguar out, a short. This film I was hired as a gun for hire director, and yet sometimes I feel I'm working in a void. And recently I had to say, is this because I'm a woman? Is this because I'm not good enough? With one producer, I literally I got upset. I felt like this is unfair. I'm being treated like she's crazy. So I had to breathe. How do I write to this man as myself, explaining in a very logical way why this does not work for me and it is wrong? And then I press send and I'm like, would a man have to do that? So that's my experience. It's a strange situation.
I feel like that is a situation that as women, we all find ourselves in. And I think we've had, Michaela, interesting conversations with you about sort of the same topic. So I'm sure you have something to say on this, because we talked about how, you question yourself as well in approaching certain subjects, or trying to tame your so-called aggressiveness in which as a producer you have to be. So if you want to talk to us a little bit about that from this other side of the pond, being Italian.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. You said it right. Melora and I actually had a very productive and intense conversation last Sunday about that, and we talked a lot about emotions and about how women express their emotions in a different way, and these affect very much our relationship with male colleagues. Something that I noticed, for example, after I came back to Italy, a decision that I'm still certain I should have taken. So I'm still not sure about that. I've noticed, for example, that being in Italy, my emotions are much more extreme, and I express themselves in a different way than I did when I was in the United States.
Yes.
I think it's a cultural thing, and it's related to deep and old ancient cultural roots. So it's very difficult to adjust. And I think also that what the Me Too is doing in the United States and in other countries, we're still a little behind in Italy or in France, for example. I also work extensively, and in the Middle East, for example. But we are there, and I want to thank you, Melora, and I want to thank all the women in this panel, because they inspire me every day to find within myself the power to really be the professional that I am. So I think it's also about that, to find the power within ourselves.
So, Adam, I'd like to ask you, as a producer, we've touched upon this subject before, and I'd like to ask you if you feel that if there is still a backlash, there's still negative sentiment towards actors, towards players of the industry that are proclaim Me Too.
The official line is no, and sadly the reality is yes. Yes,
Yes.
There's no question that it takes extraordinary valor to call out those situations when they happen, and there's also no question, unfortunately, that when people do, and generally more often it's women, but not exclusively women, but unfortunately when it happens, there is a backlash that is both subtle and unspoken against the people who call it out, because old paradigms die really hard.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we applaud everybody who does, because it has to be called out.
Yeah. So Michaela briefly talked about the differences being here, and I'd like to sort of like go around the world with you guys and explore what it's like in different areas of the world. So Diego, I'd like to come to you and ask you what it's like in Mexico, and also I know you have a good story to tell us about your show that you produce, Unstoppable, and so I think there's a lot of themes that like worth exploring there.
Well, hi all. Here in Mexico, the Metoo movement is growing a lot. Since like 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of stuff started to going on from the US, and then we are the backyard of the US, so here a lot of conscious about that happened. I wrote and directed this Desenfrenadas show in Netflix that luckily I was able to talk a story about feminine women trying to find themselves in Mexico in a very patriarchal society. And this story had a lot of impact in Mexico and in other countries. Luckily, I started a dialogue with women and men about the importance of treating women in a different way, and starting as a man to realize about the situation of women, especially in Mexico. And when the show was released on February this year, 2 weeks before the pandemic started to lock us down, there was a very big manifestation in Mexico, because 1 week after the release of the show, there was this feminicide, very, very, very brutal feminicide. And for the Women's Day, women from all around Mexico went to the center of the city and started burning buildings and monuments. And it was a very strong feeling to see some of the women with phrases of the series. From women of Mexico standing with messages from the series, and that helped to put a dialogue all around Mexico. I was very proud to be as a man, and it was tricky because I was a man doing a story about women, and I approached it with I tried to approach it with a very humble point of view. And what I did was to get around with a lot of women all through the process of making the series. But even though I realized each day that I was a man, a very privileged white man in a Latin American country, doing this type of content. So what I think is that what we have to do is, from our privilege, start to pushing ourselves to give women more power and more places of decision in this industry.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And I like, Gianluca, to come to you and ask you, as a producer, from your point of view, and in the Middle East and North Africa, what's the situation like there? If you can give us an image of what it's like, and how is it perceived?
Okay, so yeah, which is weird. Out of the Middle East, you think repression, all that. Depending on where, but most of it, honestly, it's based on meritocracy. I have to say, maybe because it's a new market. It's a kind of a virgin market, so it's more about your talent than. Women basically do not have to battle, depending on where. But throughout most of the Middle East, all of the big directors that made it internationally, if you think about it, out of the Middle East, are actually women. You look at Nadine Labaki with Capernaum, for example. That's it went on to get an Oscar nomination. It grossed something like $64 million. Her husband mortgaged his house to have his wife do the film. That's one thing. You have out of Saudi, out of all places, you have a filmmaker called Haifal Mansour, She did this little film which cost her something like $100,000. She shot that film, from the back of her van. That film grossed something like $15 million. At Sony released it in the US. And then you have other filmmakers that have sort of the same story. So it is kind of, it's all very new over here. So it's all about the talent. One would not think that, but it's actually that. Then you get to another place which actually has a history of cinema called Egypt. Well, over there, it's a bit different. It's very much patriarchal as a society. So that's very much different, and it's all a learning curve. Just 5 or 10 years ago, you had 2 films that actually were considered scandalous because they denounced, sexual harassment in the country. But because of those 2 films, now you're going to get a lot more people denouncing that. There's a lot more awareness, and it's kind of making it slowly but surely. But I guarantee you, in the rest of the Middle East, like, women are very much respected. They're on the forefront. They're the ones that actually, because you don't have governments that actually help productions over here. So these women have balls and actually go and raise a lot of money out there to make their films. At the cost of even mortgaging, their house. Even out of Iran, you have a filmmaker called, Anna Lily Amirpour, who at the time did a film called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. That film was something like $56,000, in terms of budget, and she actually got about 300 backers to finance that, and that made it to Sundance, and now she's going to direct Cliffhanger. So, yeah, women have balls over here, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Don't go to the Middle East, then. I'm moving to the Middle East.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing in Hollywood, the wrong country.
Well, we're working together now. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Hello,
we
everyone.
Are welcoming to our panel Claudia Giardini, multi-award winner
Hi.
actress Claudia Giardini. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're on a set, so thanks for finding a time.
Yes, I am.
To talk to us tonight. And we were just doing a round of, sort of like informal talk about how the situation is in terms of what has changed after the Metoo movement around the world. So how do you feel that has impacted your work as an actress, if this movement has changed anything at all? Or,
Well, I think that the Me Too, it changed, it was like a revolution. So everything changed and nothing changed. I mean, that the feeling is that everyone is much more aware, and men and women are, of course, more aware of what the relationship between everyone should be, and that no one is empowered anymore than can impose something to an actress or to someone else. Of course, it takes time to change the mentality of some male, or it's very hard. But I think that everything changed in a sense that now you think double, you think it twice.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you don't. I'm sure that everyone that had in mind to appunto molestare or to take advantage of his power, now it's over. This is over, and it was very important for the very young new. I'm talking about male and female because I don't like to put the gender, because it could be like a big problem for a guy, for a guy.
Absolutely.
It's not just about women. Of course, women are they've been the victims for years and years, and yes, and so I think it's better now. I don't agree with some exaggeration, like, oh, you cannot look the eyes of someone on a set. I've heard, for example, in Italy, we're still, nothing changed. Like people look, you know, now we shoot, and on set there's nothing awkward or, oh, let's not speak to the actress because otherwise the actress sue you, or if you
I
think we
believe that
lost her.
Claudia is joining us from a train, and that's, I mean, I really appreciate it. She really wanted to be part of the panel, but we lost her for a little bit. But that brings me to, I want to ask a question to Dominique in a minute, but this brings me to you, Adam, really quickly, because what Claudia was saying, that we don't really probably have regulated things differently on set. And I think the situation is different in the US. I think certain scenes are regulated with, you know, you explained to me the role of an intimacy coordinator. If you could tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the
I think
intimacy.
exaggerate. It could be bad not to have a relation because then you're afraid. You know, I don't know. Maybe you guys already said this. I don't know.
We lost you for a minute, Claudia. We lost you for a minute. So we were saying how you probably were, you know, were touching upon the subject that in Italy we don't really have set rules or regulation, right? Okay, while in the US there's a much stricter guidebook on how to behave. And
I know.
So, yeah.
And I was saying that it's a pity that sometimes for this problem, something changed in the sense that it could be normal that a director and an actor needs time to be one with the other one, you know, that like without many people around. And now it's not possible anymore. But I understand. I mean, these are consequences that we are ready to pay. I mean, you know, because for years and years, it's been like no rules. Now there are rules. Now they are aware that you cannot behave just because you feel some instinct, you know, because we are human being and we deserve all the respect and everything.
I'm afraid I'm going to lose it because of your connection. So I want to catch you while you're here and ask you another question about, you know, women supporting women. If you think that, and of course you worked with wonderful women, directors and producers in your career, but if you think that, you know, this is a movement that is getting stronger and real in the industry in Italy.
Well, in the last 7-8 years, in the last years, we really improved the number. We are there's a lot more women producers, women distributors, and women directing. I think it's increasing. I don't know if it's something to do with the media.
Okay, I could sense that I would be losing, but yeah.
But sorry,
yeah.
You were saying?
No, we just lost you for a second. So
I'm so sorry because I'm on a train. Sorry,
no, we
are filming in a train. We're like in a.
We are.
But
I
was saying that in Italy, it's really improving. I mean, it's really increasing the number of producers, women director, women writers, and not enough. We're not. We need to grow. We need still to grow because it's always not easy for a woman to. I don't know.
Well, we'll go back to Claudia.
Because I mean, I'm 20.
Yes, we keep
sort
of losing you. We'll get back to you in a couple of minutes if you can stay with us. Is that okay?
Yes.
So, yes.
Of course. Thank you. I will. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And I'd like to sort of continue with Adam, what he was saying really quick about intimacy coordinator, because it's something new that, you know, talking about rules. If you could finish that thought for us.
Yeah, in the United States, a new job has developed over the past couple of years, which is the intimacy coordinator. It is sanctioned by all of the major producers and studios, sanctioned by SAG-AFTRA, which is the actors union. And this is a person who works with the production and particularly with the actors who are going to do an intimate or a sexual scene. So issues of boundaries, safety, comfort, appropriateness are all addressed openly and transparently to try to create as safe and good an experience as possible. And it's really transformed the way we think about those scenes, the way we think about shooting those scenes, even the way we think about writing those scenes, because we know that that we're going to have to approach those scenes in a way that in previous decades really wasn't approached, and with a different level of respect for safety and boundaries.
Wow, that is very, very interesting. And Angelique, I think you have something to say to that effect, because last we talked, you had thoughts of compiling, putting together a workbook, an handbook that could be used to sort of regulate a matter. If you can talk to us about that, I think that would be a very interesting contribution.
Okay, perfect. Well, with my tenure at the United Nations, with our ECOSOC status, I've spoken to many countries in regards to the arts and entertainment sectors and empowerment of women.
È una riunione online virtuale dove sono tante persone collegate.
Oh boy, I can't hear you right now. Sorry.
I can hear. We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So basically, in a nutshell, we put in a 4-year case study report with the different countries at the United Nations. Obviously, we know that there's Hollywood, but within that, the largest industry actually in the world is Nollywood. They make the most films. Then there's the Bollywood industry. So what this means is that we have a whole world out there that's independent of Hollywood. And this is an ability for underserved and underrepresented individuals to also make films. So a lot of individuals are not aware of the 2030 goal of the United Nations, that we have less than 10 years to leave no one behind. And as you see with the COVID, we're very far behind. So with this manual that we've been putting together, it's a basic workbook, it's a basic manual where we are basically one, we leave our religion, we leave our race, we leave our creed, we leave our sex even, and we just follow a particular workbook. And this workbook is going to help us in all industries, but we're hoping that the Hollywood industry will embrace this first, and then we'll do test models within the Nollywood, Hollywood, and then around the world to see that this sector is met.
Lucy, I'd like to come to you now, because I know that you work also as a training, correct me, as a trainer, as a coach with actors. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I do. Yes, and I was wondering if that capacity and with your experience as an actor, there's also things that, we could teach, especially women, but that's not necessarily just women, as Claudia was saying, but, actors entering the industry, we could teach them or train them in order to, be, less afflicted by gender stereotypes, and do not embody gender stereotypes, along with not, of course, subjecting others to those.
Well, one of the key things is before you enter any scene when we're teaching is that you have a clear discussion with the person you're working with as to your boundaries. So, and that isn't just purely in a sexual sort of capacity. It's also talking about, if it's a fight scene, what are the safe boundaries? Where can we go? Where can't we go? What are you okay with? What are you not okay with? And it's really important that everybody who goes in as an adult. And that's equally, if someone finds that difficult to do, that becomes part of the coaching. Going, so do you notice that was difficult for you to do? Where do you not step into this? And can you step into this more? Because ultimately, as actors, we are running our own businesses. We are small business owners. We come into these big businesses, and we need to be able to hold our own space and hold our own, as CEOs of our own company, to go in, this is what my company does. This is what my company does not do. And maybe you need a different company. Or maybe my company can expand to do that, but you discuss it. You know, it's not going in blindly going, yeah, I can do that. Oh. So it's partly taking ownership, but it's also that this doesn't come as a surprise. This becomes normalized. And that essentially is, you know, it's a small scale version within an acting class of consent, which is what I think is, you know, all of this is framed within the Me Too.
Right.
We have to have a framework of some kind. We have to have these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just something that came up when you were speaking earlier, but is also just having sort of various things in mind, is that, you know, we're saying this is post Me Too. It's not. It's like, this is like, I don't even know if it's the first wave. I mean, you know, the first wave was probably in the 70s, to be honest. It's the first wave within our industry. But, you know, I mean, like, hold on to your hats, boys and girls. This is, you know, we're not even into the second wave yet. This is not post Me Too. This is the beginning of a long-term conversation that we need to keep having.
Absolutely.
Because we learn as human beings, that's how we learn. We learn by repeating things. We learn by repetition. So we have to keep on having. People are like, oh my God, didn't we deal with this last year? Yeah, we did. And we're talking about it again. And it's okay that we're talking about it again, because we're also great at, you know, oh, we talked about it now, got that, great, thanks very much, on to the next thing. But that's not how we work. We don't work like that as a society. We don't work like that as human beings. And then the other thing that came to me was just acknowledging as well, as women within this business, we are all trailblazers. We are all doing things that have not been done before. We kind of feel, because society is the way it is right now, that women under the law have equality, women have all kinds of rights, that it's always been like this. We're trailblazing still. I mean, I don't know about you, I'm the first woman in my family, direct generation, to go to university. Going back to, you know, ancient ancestors who moved out of Africa, I am the first. We are trailblazing as women.
Wow, that's very important.
And we forget that. So we are, all this Me Too stuff, we are breaking new ground. So it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be dealt with really quickly. It's a learning for everyone. It is us stepping into saying what we need, being allowed to say what we need. It's the males stepping into not being triggered by us asking for what we need and saying what our boundaries are, because that's not been the norm. But it's an ongoing process and a conversation.
Yeah, it's long. But it's inexorable. It's going to go for centuries. I have 2 girls. I have a mother. I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 8. And I think the mother of male boy have even more responsibility to teach from when they're little something, you know, the respect. And me, that I'm with the 2 girls from the beginning, from when they're 11 years old and 16, from now, to have them learn what is their place in the world, what is going to be the equity with boys, and that battle that we still, for years and maybe for centuries, continuing to do. Of course,
I feel like our time is running short, and we lost Claudia again, but I want to ask
Iman, little, but as you said, we just started. We're breaking you different.
Barbara, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask Dominique a question about.
Yes, absolutely.
What you're standing from a legal point of view, because we started speaking about the future ahead, which I think is the most important thing. So we're building something crucial, very important, and we're learning about working together in a different way. I was wondering, from a legal point of view, do
what
we
has
really
changed?
have different rights now? Do we have better options?
Yes, I mean, definitely. I think there's before, there was a presumption almost that these things didn't exist, at least in the US. And every pressure was put on the person making the claim that they had been violated or their rights had been violated. And it was, definitely a factual one-on-one where one person says one thing happened and the other person says something else. And more times than not, the abuser was just sort of let off. And we also had a culture of silence where there are non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality agreements that have to be signed. But with the pressure of Me Too and the, publicity around it, a lot of companies, even though they had legal rights to keep their settlements confidential, they have, lifted those to be able to share how they've resolved cases. And even then, that has led to criticism of the companies in terms of how they paid off settlements. And some of them have made statements going forward that they will not make Me Too settlements conditional on confidentiality. And so the women and men who have been victims can speak up even after they receive a settlement.
Yes, and if you can make it, that's very interesting. And maybe if you can make it a little easier for us, if we Italians that have a different legal system. Yes, how are those? And shortly, how is that possible to a case to be settled with a settlement off court? If you can explain that a little bit, and what does that mean in terms of these harassment cases? Because
So we have a situation where our courts are often used to resolve these. So women can bring cases as a group and class actions. I think in Europe, you guys don't use them as much, like group litigations where you can represent a number of women at this, or a number of people at the same time. We can in the US. I know, like in the privacy context in GDPR, there is possibilities for nonprofit groups to bring claims in terms of privacy on behalf of a group now, but it's not so much in the culture, I would say, in the EU, but in the US, we very much have a litigation culture, and class actions on behalf of big groups are brought all the time. They usually represent bigger risks for the companies because you have not just one individual to contend with, but everybody that's similar to that individual that might have suffered. So you might have seen in the Me Too cases, multiple women coming forward. And there is a tangential to the Me Too movement. There's also something called Time's Up, which is an organization where funds were raised to actually defend women in these cases. At the beginning, when Me Too was happening, there were a lot of counterclaims being brought against the women in most cases that were being accused of defamation of very, powerful company executives and so forth. And so they needed to defend themselves against counterclaims after they made a claim. But many times there were agreements already in place that the prior actions of the, say a woman had already received a settlement and then they were bringing a suit again after the Me Too. The companies had said, hey, we've already resolved this and it's confidential. And because of the public outcry, they had to become public with their statements, because a lot of the women did settle, but it was not knowing that, there were hundreds of other, or 10s, 20s, 30 other victims of the same person. And so once that came to light, they brought fresh new claims. So often what companies will do, so it doesn't stay in the press forever and be a big embarrassment, they try to settle on confidential terms. Sometimes there's mediation agreements in clauses that the actor or actresses will sign so that it's not in the public courts, which can become very, a lot of publicity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Yes, now it's much clearer. And I want to go to Evan and Jerry now, wrapping up. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time, but I want to ask both of you guys your opinion on, where do the men stand in this? There's a talk of a new masculinity, a different kind of approach to being a man and working with women and being allied. So, your thoughts on that, if that's possible, if that's changing.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I responded strongly to what Lucy was saying earlier, that it's an ongoing education,
Yes.
Especially for myself as a husband, as a father of a 15-year-old daughter, and as a male in this industry, just to learn that the male toxicity, while certainly at the actual root of why the Me Too movement even exists in the first place, I think it's also part of a much bigger issue of a more common problem, I think, that women face in this industry. I mean, I was one of 5 male producers on Melora's film that she directed. And that fact escaped me while we were making the film. It was only since having conversations afterwards that I looked at that and realized that all these conversations are opportunities for me to learn where and when I could be an advocate and when I'm complicit in a situation where a female doesn't feel safe to express herself. And then once the female leaves the room, like, I think those conversations are great. And I agree, while this panel is a post-Me Too panel, and I don't want to presume to know the progress we've made, I do think there's still a lot of conversations to be had. And it's mostly for our education as men in this industry. It feels one way that way, and I accept that and want to foster an advocate for that. So
to add on what Jerry's saying, I think that one of the things that's beginning to change is before it might have been men have this role and women have this diminished role, and that's the law of nature. And then there was a sort of a new way of thinking, which is that, hey, be nice to women because they're somebody's mother, or they're somebody's daughter, or they're somebody's sister, and in that way it still relates to the patriarchy. And I feel like now, hopefully, the change that's moving forward is one of interdependence between the genders, and we're learning at the same time as there's a spectrum of sexuality, that there are things to be offered from everyone along the spectrum. And so I think that one of the tasks before the Me Too movement is to find a generative way to have the ideology modify it. There's that idiom that says that if you shame someone into action, you create performance. But if you inspire someone into action, then you create lasting change. And so I think it's a uniting of forces. And the more that we can get away from the genderized sort of typical representation of it, I think we're going to be in for a better future.
It's absolutely refreshing to hear that. And I just want to double check that is I heard correctly. So we are joined now by
I don't hear anything.
Mira Sorvino. Can you hear us? We are beyond thrilled.
Your audio needs to restart.
To have you with us. We see you. Can you hear us? Is this a good connection for you? We are honored to have you with us. Part of this panel, of course, talking of trailblazers, Mira Sorvino, besides her impressive work, her awards, the world will always be grateful to her and the women like her that have, stepped up as first women to accuse Weinstein and to change really the path for many more women after her. Can you hear us now, or is this better for you? Okay, we can see you. Okay, can you hear us?
The audio on my computer is not. Use a different speaker. Okay.
This is the new normal with the Zoom connections. Okay.
Yeah.
We are waiting for. Okay, we are just waiting for Mira to hear us perfectly. We of course, or to.
Are they not on? Maybe do I need to turn them on?
To start. a path that's changed the world and the industry in Hollywood and around the world, really, with being one of the first women in 2017 to accuse Weinstein of sexual assault and of derailing her career. So we, of course, are. I can hear her talking, so she cannot hear us. Okay, Okay, I'm waiting for the technicians to let me know what's going on.
I would like to address a very small point regarding what people were saying. Now I was thinking that when I was doing Unstoppable, Desenfrenadas, my series, there was this intimacy scenes. We don't have in Mexico coordinators of intimacy yet.
Yeah.
The director is the one in charge of that. And I realized there that the world has changed so much because me as a male director, I found in a very strange position trying to direct two women having sex in a scene.
Absolutely.
And then I realized I couldn't do it. So I asked for the support of a female director to help me with that scene and another scene of rape. And I found that very refreshing because it was very important for me not to them think that I was doing a male fantasy with that scene, but I wanted to tell a story. But I think this process should change. And find very safe situations so that we can men and women tell our stories, but with a lot of respect and not with a lot of suspicion and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I see Mira's face in one of the squares.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay, I'm
we
here.
Can hear you now.
You see
okay.
We have a windstorm here.
Okay,
it brought the power lines down, so my home had no electricity or cellular or internet. So I'm now at a public coffee house trying to connect. I'm sorry.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. And I was saying how, of course, we owe you, women around the world owe you for, for being one of the first women to speak up and change with the words, change the world around you. So how does it feel to be recognized for that? Besides your works, your awards, your international fame, to have changed the world around you?
Gosh, I mean, that's very sweet of you. I'm one of literally millions of people who actually raised their hand and said me too. So I don't feel that special, but I am very grateful for the acknowledgement. And I feel like, we have started to make a dent in problems that have plagued humanity since the beginning of time. Rape, sexual violence, sexual misconduct, harassment, none of this is new. It's been around us forever. And I feel like this is maybe the first generation where there has been a concerted worldwide effort to address it. And for that, I am proud to be a part of that movement. That makes me happy. So.
I also want to ask you, we talked to Melora earlier about you guys working together. And if you feel that there is I want to ask you the same question as Melora, if there is a change towards women empowering each other and supporting each other more in the industry. What's your experience with that?
I feel like I do see that. I do see a solidarity building, Melora and I have always supported each other, so we kind of predated Me Too for that. It didn't need a movement for us to recognize each other's worth as people, as human beings, as artists. And I always love working with Melora in one way or another, whether it's as an actress in one of her films or acting with her. But I do see, I see women taking chances on each other more. I see women realizing that they can do it themselves rather than it having to always be at the behest of a very patriarchal system. There's a lot of more women of color. So it's an exciting time. I mean, we're still not anywhere close to being equal in terms of representation. When you look at the numbers of films that are directed by women, the numbers of films that are directed by women that get nominated for important awards, we're still very low in the percentages, but it's growing, and I see nothing but positivity in that sphere.
I don't know if you can talk about this because you're being an award winner, you vote for the Academy Awards. But what is your position on changing the rules around how movies can get to be nominated for Best Film? If that is something that you feel positively about, that will change, how movies are produced, women participation in the industry.
Are you talking about whether they're only visible on streaming platforms rather than in theaters?
I'm talking about the new Academy Awards rules that establish certain quotas of participation and diversity for movies to be submitted and nominated for Best Film. If that change is a positive change for the industry in terms of increasing participation of women and changing things around. I don't know if you can talk about this.
I think it's hard for me because I'm not that educated on all the specifics of the new rules. I'm asking you, have they been voted into law yet, or are they just a proposal? I don't even know. I'm sorry. I have 4 kids, and in the middle of COVID here, it's still pretty. So I'm not up to date on everything. I apologize.
Okay, no problem.
I cannot speak about it because I'm very ignorant on all the details of it.
Okay, no problem. It's just it was just out of curiosity. But on a different note, and if anybody wants to jump in now, I think we extended our conversation for another 10 minutes. So feel free to jump in and share your opinions. But I also wanted to ask you, Mira, how is your Italian citizenship process going? Because I know that I heard you saying
it's slow. Yes, I really it's kind of a slow going thing. I'm trying to gather all the information about my grandfather Fortunato Forvino, who was born in Vomero, Napoli, and thus far we haven't found any hard proof that he was naturalized. And if that is the case, then we should be able to have a path to citizenship through him. And I have sent, inquiries into the National Records Bureau in the U.S. to try and verify that, and they have not gotten back to me. So the only thing that I can draw from that is that there is no proof of his naturalization, which then would mean that I should be able to, I and my father, apply for citizenship through his legacy. If that doesn't work, I'm open to suggestions because we just love Italy so much. I don't know if you know how important it is to me as a human being to kind of claim my Italianness. Like I'm basically 50% Italian, and even my mother, the WASPy one, it found out genetically she's also part Italian. And we got married in Italy. My cousins got married in Italy. We all kind of returned to Italy for all these important moments in our lives, and nothing would make me happier than to sort of join the Italian community in a more robust way, making films there, bringing projects there, getting my Italian up to snuff, really speaking it better, and, maybe buying a home there for my children to, enjoy this huge part of our lives, culturally, emotionally, spiritually. Like we just feel, I don't know, it has always meant so much.
Italians will feel the same way you feel about Italy. If all Italians will feel the same way you feel about Italy, our country will have a new renaissance.
True.
Come to Italy. Whatever it needs me to take you to Italy, just come to Italy. I told Melora already.
Well, thank you so much. It would really make me very happy. I'm always elated. When we went with Drowning with Melora for her film to the Rome Cinema Fest, it was so moving to be there, as artists in this city of art. Rome is the cradle of Western civilization. And we went to the Foro together and just walked around and just sort of drank in the millennia of artistry and beauty and culture, and we were like ecstatic. I mean, and of course I've been to Rome several times, but to be there with the film that Melora wrote and directed and that we all participated in was really special. But also my first big break in the world was at the Venice Film Festival, which is the first place that Mighty Aphrodite premiered worldwide, and that was the beginning, really, of anyone taking any notice of my acting. So, and that was, sadly, it was the week after my grandfather died, Fortunato, and I was going to bring him with me. I had a plan that I was going to take him with me, and he was going to be my guest at the Venice Film Festival, and he would show me around Venice because he had come back to Italy many times in his life. And it was so sad as I came in on the boat in the morning off the plane coming into Venice in the mist. And I just felt like his spirit was kind of hovering above us. But I went to the Piazza San Marco and I ordered a piece of the pastiera that he used to make every Easter, because I saw it on the menu, and I sat there with all the pigeons and I was eating this pastiera and crying for my grandfather. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful memory with us. And I really like to talk to you guys more about all these topics. I feel this was such a wonderful panel with so many great contributions. And do we still have a few minutes? I'm going to ask. We have 5 minutes. So if wrapping up, if there's anything that you would like to add to our conversation, feel free to raise your hand, virtually speaking, because I can't see you all right now, and add your last thoughts, or otherwise we can just, on this note, Melora, I can see you. I can see you. Yes.
So I want to go back to talking about the Middle East and television. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Had a huge impact on me, And recently I watched The Protector on Netflix, which is shot in Turkey. It's quite amazing.
I haven't seen that.
Fauda is an Israeli show, and Al-Haida is controversial. But what and my brilliant friend, one of my favorite TV shows is it's Italian.
Which one's that?
Based on Elena Ferrante's.
Oh yeah, you know what? I've started that and they've not finished it.
But the thing about all of these, including Fauda, which is an Israeli Special Forces show, is that the women that they use are solid. All shows, even the Lebanese Syrian show, they are just as strong as every single man. And
that's what I'm saying.
What comes through is this respect of men and women in these shows, and love. Like, love is the underlying, even if it's a drug dealer or a sniper. I think that this collaboration of men and women and mutual respect is coming through in these new shows on platforms and in countries you wouldn't think, as you said earlier. And I think that's one of the most important things about the Me Too movement.
Yeah, which is weird. I mean, I grew up in Italy, and moving to the Middle East, I had a different impression, and then slowly you start seeing that, well, it's not what you actually hear in the media. Again, depending on where you are. But when it comes to TV and film, you kind of see that. And then, when it comes to the success of Middle Eastern cinema, I think 80 or 90% of the time, the ones that actually prevail, if that's the right word, are actually women, and it's insane. Like, again, I don't know, maybe I'm older and I kind of notice that now, but it's great. No, you're right. You're totally right. I'm not sure I agree with you liking El Haiba. I was like, But, yeah.
I'm not saying I like it, but I will say that the women are as integral and
no, you're right.
You're
totally right on that. Yeah.
I'm not saying I like it.
Okay, good. All right. Okay.
I love everything about this panel. I wish we could continue for much longer. They're giving me signs from the technical area saying that we really need to wrap up now. But I feel like on the note of this collaboration between men and women, and really from artists and from all over the world, like we did tonight, I think that's a really good note to close on. So I really want to thank everybody for being part of Sguardi Altrove, the International Women Film Festival, and even in this remote, distant way. And we'll welcome you and waiting for you next year, hopefully in person. So thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. That would be a great pleasure and honor.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Grazie.
Grazie a voi, grazie.
Bye, Melora. You look beautiful.
Bye. You look beautiful. You look like a Botticelli painting.
Oh.
I'm being blown away. There's so much wind here. You can see the Santa Ana.
Gord, it's